What happens when you give a creature with a walnut-sized brain a weapon capable of killing apex predators? You get one of the most successful herbivores in Earth's history. Stegosaurus survived for millions of years in an environment packed with massive carnivores, not by running or hiding, but by fighting back with devastating effectiveness. Their tail spikes, known as Thagomizers, were so effective that we found fossilized evidence of them punching holes through predator bones. These weren't lucky defensive strikes, they were calculated attacks that turned the tables on some of the most dangerous hunters ever to live. The story of how scientists got this so wrong begins with one of paleontology's most respected figures making a logical but ultimately flawed assumption. When Othniel Charles Marsh first examined Stegosaurus fossils in the 1870s, he discovered something that seemed to confirm what many scientists suspected about these massive creatures. Deep within the hip region, where the spinal cord passed through the vertebrae, Marsh found an enlarged cavity that was significantly larger than similar structures in other dinosaurs. The logic seemed unshakable at the time. Here was a 30-foot dinosaur weighing 5 tons, lumbering through Jurassic landscapes with a brain cavity in its skull that could barely accommodate a walnut. How could such a tiny processing center coordinate the complex muscle movements needed to swing that massive spike-laden tail or navigate the intricate social behaviors required for herd living? Marsh proposed that this enlarged neural canal housed what he called a posterior brain case, essentially a second brain dedicated to controlling the animal's hindquarters and tail. The scientific community embraced this explanation with enthusiasm. Textbooks featured detailed diagrams showing the dual brain system. Museum displays highlighted this unique anatomical feature, and countless research papers cited the two-brain theory as established fact. Generations of students learned that Stegosaurus represented a bizarre evolutionary experiment, a creature so poorly designed that nature had to install backup processing power just to keep it functional. The anatomical evidence appeared convincing. The enlarged neural canal sat precisely where major muscle groups converged, exactly where you would expect a control center for the powerful hind limbs and weaponized tail. Scientists had created a neat explanation for an apparent design flaw in one of the Jurassic period's most successful herbivores. However, modern scanning technology began revealing troubling inconsistencies. Advanced CT scans showed that the internal structure of this cavity didn't match what scientists expected from neural tissue. The breakthrough came when comparative anatomy studies with modern birds revealed the truth. This mysterious cavity actually housed a glycogen body, an energy storage organ that modern birds use to fuel their nervous systems during periods of intense activity. The two-brain myth was completely shattered, leaving scientists to confront an even more puzzling question about this ancient giant. How could a brain the size of a walnut control a creature larger than an elephant? The numbers were staggering when researchers finally calculated the true brain-to-body ratio. Stegosaurus possessed a brain weighing only about 80 grams, roughly the size of a dog's brain, packed into a skull that belonged to an animal stretching 30 feet from nose to tail and tipping the scales at 5 tons. To put this in perspective, modern elephants have brains that are proportionally massive compared to their body size, allowing them to demonstrate complex problem-solving abilities and intricate social behaviors. This tiny-brained herbivore somehow thrived in an ecosystem absolutely packed with intelligent, deadly predators. Allosaurus stalked the same territories with razor-sharp teeth and pack-hunting strategies, while Ceratosaurus used its powerful jaws and keen senses to track down prey across vast distances. These predators possess significantly larger brains relative to their body size, giving them advantages in processing sensory information, coordinating attacks, and adapting their hunting techniques. Yet Stegosaurus not only survived in this predator-rich environment, but actually flourished for millions of years. The environmental challenges this brain size created were immense. Coordinating the movement of 4 massive limbs while navigating uneven Jurassic terrain required constant neural processing. Processing sensory information about approaching threats demanded split-second decision-making that seemed impossible with such limited cognitive hardware. The cognitive limitations were severe. Slow reaction times meant Stegosaurus couldn't rely on quick reflexes to escape danger, while limited learning ability prevented these animals from developing sophisticated anti-predator strategies through experience. Yet evidence suggests Stegosaurus developed highly specialized, instinct-driven defensive behaviors that required minimal conscious thought. These responses were essentially pre-programmed survival mechanisms that activated automatically when specific threat patterns were detected. Rather than thinking through defensive strategies, Stegosaurus relied on deeply embedded behavioral programs refined through millions of years of natural selection. This reveals a fundamental truth about evolutionary success. Intelligence isn't always the winning strategy. Sometimes the right physical adaptations can completely overcome cognitive limitations. The real story of Stegosaurus survival lay not in its processing power, but in the devastating anatomical weapons evolution had provided this seemingly vulnerable giant. The most formidable of these weapons was hidden at the end of its seemingly clumsy tail. 4 spikes that could punch through solid bone. These weren't decorative features or simple defensive tools. The Thagomizer, as scientists now call it, consisted of spikes measuring up to 3 feet long, arranged at the tail's tip and capable of being swung with tremendous force. Each spike was attached directly to the tailbone through powerful connective tissues, creating a flexible but deadly weapon system that could pivot and strike with precision. Many scientists initially questioned whether such a slow herbivore could actually use its tail effectively against agile predators like Allosaurus. The skepticism seemed reasonable. How could a lumbering plant eater with a walnut-sized brain coordinate the complex movements needed to wield such a weapon against fast-moving carnivores? The answer came through detailed biomechanical analysis that revealed Stegosaurus possessed a sophisticated combat system built around its unique anatomy. Stegosaurus could pivot on its powerful hind legs while swinging its weaponized tail in deadly arcs. By keeping its large hind limbs stationary and pushing off with its very powerfully muscled but short forelimbs, the animal could swivel deftly to deal with attacks from multiple angles. This maneuverability turned the seemingly clumsy herbivore into a surprisingly effective defensive fighter. The tail's flexibility proved crucial to this system, as studies revealed the complete absence of ossified tendons that restricted movement in other dinosaurs. This anatomical feature allowed for an exceptional range of motion, enabling Stegosaurus to swing its tail with considerable force and accuracy. Forensic evidence from actual specimens provided the smoking gun scientists needed. Research by McWhinney and colleagues revealed that approximately 9.8% of Stegosaurus specimens examined showed trauma-related damage to their tail spikes. The damage patterns indicated these spikes were broken during actual fights, proving the Thagomizer was used in active combat encounters rather than just threat displays. The most dramatic proof came from a single punctured Allosaurus pelvis bone that changed everything scientists thought about dinosaur combat. When paleontologists examined the wound, they realized a Stegosaurus tail spike fit perfectly into the hole. The infection patterns visible in the bone tissue proved the predator survived the initial attack but suffered severe injuries that likely compromised its hunting ability. But the Thagomizer was just one component of an even more complex defensive system that covered the entire length of this remarkable animal. The 17 massive plates running down Stegosaurus's back weren't randomly placed decorations. They formed a sophisticated survival system that scientists are still deciphering. These weren't small, insignificant features, but enormous bony structures that dominated the animal's profile. The largest plates, positioned directly over the hips, measured up to 24 inches in both height and width, creating an imposing silhouette that could be seen from considerable distances across the Jurassic landscape. Unlike many other dinosaur defensive features, these plates weren't directly attached to the skeleton, but arose from the skin itself, similar to the osteoderms found in modern crocodiles and lizards. The arrangement followed a distinctive, alternating pattern rather than symmetrical pairs, creating a zigzag formation that maximized their visual impact while serving two primary functions. Research has revealed that each plate was covered in a keratin sheath, the same tough material found in human fingernails. Skin impressions show a keratin layer on Hesperosaurus plates, strengthening them and making color display possible, according to studies by Christensen and Chop. This keratin covering would have significantly increased the visible surface area of the plates, and such horn structures are often brightly colored in modern animals, suggesting these plates served as powerful visual displays for species recognition and intimidation. The zigzag arrangement creates maximum visual impact from the side, while leaving no gaps for predators to exploit from above. This strategic positioning meant that approaching carnivores would face an intimidating wall of sharp-edged plates, no matter which angle they chose for their attack. The internal structure of these plates, filled with numerous blood vessels, supports the thermoregulatory hypothesis, the idea that they functioned as biological radiators, helping this massive animal manage its body temperature in the semi-arid Jurassic climate. Different plate patterns between species suggest they served as identification markers, helping Stegosaurus recognize their own kind for mating and social behavior. The arrangement varied notably between different species. S. stenops displayed plates in two staggered rows, while S. ungulatus showed different configurations that researchers are still working to understand completely. This sophisticated dual-purpose system gave Stegosaurus crucial survival advantages that worked together with its devastating tail weapon. The combination of visual intimidation and temperature regulation created an unexpectedly effective strategy that allowed this seemingly vulnerable herbivore to thrive in one of Earth's most dangerous periods. The real lesson here goes far beyond dinosaur anatomy. Stegosaurus represents evolution's ability to create successful survivors through specialized adaptations, rather than intelligence proving that in the dangerous Jurassic world, the right weapons mattered more than brains. This misunderstood dinosaur challenges our assumptions about what makes a species successful in prehistoric ecosystems. Intelligence wasn't the deciding factor for survival. Strategic physical adaptations were. The lasting impact of Stegosaurus extends far beyond paleontology. As both a cultural icon appearing in countless films and educational materials, and a scientific lesson about questioning established theories, this armored herbivore continues teaching us important lessons. When new evidence emerges, even century-old scientific beliefs must be re-examined and corrected.